think if you compare it to pro sports equivalents, it is more challenging, particularly as it pertains to the player dynamic. In professional sports, you have players that are making significant sums of monies, and such the likelihood of them engaging in illegal activity related to match fixing becomes minimized because they have too much to lose. Well, I think that question can in some ways potentially be adjusted, because when it comes to integrity, obviously if we share data amongst operators within a state, or even amongst various states and its various operators, the more data we have within the legislated space, the more we can share those numbers and see what the betting trends look like to be able to detect any issues related to integrity. But to me, I think the biggest part of this is that it's not just monitoring companies and operators policing the industry, but the university institutions policing themselves. And it starts with running a clean program and having an athletic director who is a leader, has a lot of integrity, and hiring coaches who are going to recruit players using the strict guidelines they're supposed to adhere to. And if you as a coach and as a university in your recruiting practices are cutting corners on how you bring on players, that player is going to see a culture that's a bit more lax, that is a bit more towards cutting corners and make them more susceptible to making bad decisions, which could play into the integrity space. Well, I got to tell you that the trading of college sports currently is a lot more difficult than trading of professional sports equivalents, for a number of reasons. First of all, for college athletics, there are no data sources being made available by the NCAA to the betting community. Whereas for NBA and for NFL, NHL, you have some really clean data coming through. For NCAA, you're trading from television, radio, data sources that might not be that fast, so it really does become more of a challenge. Then you add to that the sheer volume of games. You're dealing with, a lot more teams, hundreds of teams, and 5,000 plus matches, which is a lot more than you get in an NBA or an NFL season, which is a much smaller number of teams. And now you got to keep track of all those players and rate how good each player is, and all that it goes into betting odds. And you add into the fact that the players in many instances are 17, 18, 19-year-old students. Their first year coming to college, we just don't know how good they are, which makes it at the earlier part of the year that much more difficult to create betting odds accordingly. Well, I think that, as we look at what we're able to offer in terms of betting lines to operators for college sports, one of the big differences right now is that we're seeing in professional sports significant growth towards mass number of markets, both for pre-match and in play. And we're also seeing growth towards player prop wagering and other forms of propositional bets. But when you look at the NBA and NFL, the players are front and center. They become brands, they become very visible. And creating betting markets, not just on the teams, but on players, is something that becomes really popular. Whereas for NCAA, because we don't have as much data, it's difficult to create as many markets. So we're generally offering a product that's a bit more scaled down to protect the interests of the operator. And of course, as alluded to, with a lot of the players who are really young, coming out of high school, it's difficult to know how well they're going to produce. And as such, when it comes to player prop types of bets, those would be something that becomes less of a trend with college sports than in professional equivalents.